Hey, what's going on guys? I'm Soar here. Today we are back to cover Raizers from the V collection. Now I know it's been a while since I did V, with the whole premium-ish thing, then we are covering, more D stuff for DBTO3. But this was another one of those V call decks I really wanted to go through, and thus I'm still putting it out there no matter what. Raizers, these are not your run-of-the-mill Raizers. These are a relatively new direction that Raizers are taking from the Legion era Raizers, thanks to Ultimate Raizer Mega Flare and Ultimate Raizer Dual Flare. Yes, there are a lot more Legion era Raizers out there, but these are the two we have right now, so we are just going to build with what we can. Raizers are relatively a very controversial archetype because they were the first things to come out from Nova V, and as everyone knows by now, Nova V was horrific. But the thing is that they still have relatively enough support to operate, in my opinion. It's not the best Nova Grappler deck by all means, but it's certainly something that you can actually work with. And it's actually quite fun once you actually give it a spin. Price-wise, I say it's pretty cheap. I built the Raizer Core for myself, I think, for less than 2,000 yen. So really it's not that hard. I would say maybe actually finding a Heal Guardians would be a bit more expensive, but yeah, I would say for the rest of the deck, for what I paid for, I'm quite happy with what I got. So yeah, let's actually start off with this deck. So I obviously play at the grade 3s, 4 copies of Mega Flare and 3 copies of Maximum Raizer, and you may be delighted to know that I was actually able to afford my Heal Guardians, so you will have them at a 4 as well. So let's break it down. The Heal Guardians, really, it's just a Heal Guardian. I really don't need to explain about it. So I'll just put it out there. Then of course we have the main attraction, which is Ultimate Raizer Mega Flare. Mega Flare possesses 2 skills, one that is incredibly good and one that is incredibly horrible. Its first skill is, at the end of the battle that your unit with Raizer attacks, Counter Blast 2, rest this unit, then stand the unit that just attacked, and then stand your Vanguard. So essentially it's just Counter Blast 2, stand a Raizer, which is like, is it worth it? I would say yes and no. This is really where the most of your Counter Blast goes to, because then you may be wondering, but why do we need this? Because actually, Raizers work in a really weird manner where they kind of want you to use up a lot of your resources and put yourself on the edge of Counter Blasting, and then after that you can refund and then carry on for more extension. So actually, this skill is not all that bad, although definitely comparing it to what Nova Grappler has, this is definitely abysmal. But Ultimate Raizer Mega Flare has a Saving Grace, which is its second skill. At the end of the battle that this unit attacks, you may Counter Blast 1, choose one of your grade 2 Raizer units from your soul, and write it as stand. At the end of the turn, you must destroy the grade 2 Raizer and swap it back out for Mega Flare, which is obviously him. So you actually get a delayed acceleration, because by the end of your turn with Mega Flare, you actually will have 2 Excel markers instead of 1, which is not bad. And even with the same Ultimate Raizer Mega Flare copy, you can actually not ride again and still repeat this skill over consecutive turns, and you will just get more Excel and more draws. That's really one thing I quite enjoy. You notice that for the skill of this Mega Flare replacement, there is no discard skill. There is no minus drives. It's a lot of raw advantage in terms of hand that you actually can gain very well with Raizers. And that's kind of neat, because taking Raizers in this new direction of having the basic Nova multi-attack plus giving them some form of hand building and decency is really a big ironic slap to the face to everybody who played Perfect Raizer back in the day. Because back in the day it was like, oh no, we have numbers, we just can't plus, we're gonna die. And now it's just like, oh, we can plus, we have no numbers, we're gonna die. So yeah, funny I guess. But if you want to talk about numbers, that's where our next candidate comes in, which is Maximum Raizer at a 3 off. Maximum Raizer is a very simplistic skill. If he attacks 1 boosted, he gains 10,000 power for the battle. So you can't stack this. I tried. It's just a 22k beater. It's a Raizer, which is great. So yeah, that's really pretty much it. A lot of these options will not make sense now. It really won't until you see our grade 1 lineup, and then you'll be like, oh, that's why you play it. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Moving on to our grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Ultimate Raizer Dual Flare. we play 4 copies of everyone's favorite high-powered Raizer Custom, and we play, this is a surprise pick for a lot of people, 4 copies of White Hank. So let's break it down. I think I'll start with the elephant in the room. That's definitely this guy. He is from the Perfect Raizer era, so you may be like, what? Why we play him? He has 2 skills. When placed on V or R, you may superior call a Bell Raizer from your soul to the rearguard circle behind it. So you're guaranteed going to have a +3 booster, and it's not bad, you know. It's not every day you get a free rearguard out of nowhere, so it's fine. Although yes, you only have 1 copy of Bell Raizer in circulation, so do pace yourself in terms of when and where you call your Bell Raizer, because yeah, you know. A second skill is at the end of the bell that is using attack hits a vanguard while boosted by a Bell Raizer. No, sorry, it doesn't have to be boosted, sorry. You just counterblast 1 as a cost and then move the Bell Raizer into the soul. You choose one of your other rearguards and stand it. So I know this force calls Bell Raizer to its column, so it's essentially a 9+6. But if this column hits you, you counterblast 1, you move Bell Raizer back to the soul, you stand off your rearguards. So you kind of just net off minus. It's tight behind the on hit, which is painful, but it's fine considering, this is a Raizer that you will get some attacks in eventually, because we do have not bad amount of attacks. If you're wondering, but the Bell Raizer, you move into soul, then it's just a vanilla. Well, once you see our grade 1 ratio, you'll understand, because there's a lot more that goes behind it than just simple Forerunner abilities. So yeah, that's really just why I play high powered. I mean, you can even use high powered just to drag out Bell Raizer and straight up not use its skill, as we'll explain later. Then of course, next up, we also play 4 copies of Ultimate Raizer Dual Flare, who is the iconic Legion mate of Mega Flare. He has 2 skills, V or R, so you can use it on turn 2, you can use it on turn 3. When he attacks your opponent's vanguard, if all of your front row rearguard units are at rest besides him, well, I mean obviously because he's the one attacking now, he gains 3000 power for each grade of the opponent. So every time your opponent gets more powerful, Dual Flare will correspond. If your opponent's at grade 3, he gains 9k. If opponent's at grade 2, he gains 6k. It is a very interesting skill considering this power is absolutely free, just gated behind a very weird requirement. So it kind of forces you to finish off all your other attacks, and then you get a larger Dual Flare, which is fine. And Dual Flare has one more skill. At the end of the bell that this unit attacks, if there are no at the end of the battle this unit attacks, you can move this unit to soul, choose one of your vanguards, it gains 5000 power. Then, if you have 1 or less counter blast open, you may counter charge 1. I believe that's what it says. Yeah. Or I think it's if you have no counter blast open, then you counter charge 1. So this is what I was talking about the whole on the brink thing. You can just slide this into the soul, you get counter charge after maybe you restored perhaps him with Mega Flare, which is not bad. That's a decent combo in and of itself. Moving this card into soul means you are guaranteed a Raizer to superior right with Mega Flare because you're looking for grade 2 Raizers, and this is just another great way to do it. You just move him into the soul, and Mega Flare gains 5 for free. And you may be saying, oh, you minus from the board, but with Mega Flare's plussing through his second skill, it kind of breaks even and even goes beyond, so I would say it's fine. The Dual Flare's plus skill also helps because when you're doing the second attack of Dual Flare as your Vanguard, it also powers up. So it really, the two of them really complement each other really well. And I'm kind of glad that they did design it that way, where the boss has at least matching support. They could have really just pulled a Reiji on Raizers, I won't lie, they really could have, but they didn't, so it's not totally unplayable. I think it's pretty fun. Moving on to our last grade 2, we play White Hank. White Hank has been reprinted in VCall, so he's pretty affordable. I understand that he was about, I think, 1,300 yen back in last year, so you should be able to afford it now because last I checked, he's only about 100 yen. White Hank has 2 skills. At the end of the bell, this unit attacks as your Vanguard, Soul Blast 1, you draw a card. Oh, that's very good turn 2 skill, I would say, Free draw, why not? Soul, you may be saying, oh, but we don't have Soul. You will, just wait till you see the great ones. And then of course his second skill is when he's attacking, you discard one, you stand one. Hard once per turn, and you must stand another rear guard. Then we say, okay, it helps restand, good. It's not a Raizer, fine. It's still not a bad card, but the discard, isn't that pretty heavy? It is pretty heavy, but like I said, with Mega Flare's drawing, it really nets off. You really don't really care about this minus. I understand that there is another card very similar to this, which is Kick Typhoon, but my main struggle with Kick is that Kick also uses Counter Blast, and if you want to just use Counter Blast to stand something, you already have a built-in Mega Flare, so there's really no need to just use multiple sources of restanding through Counter Blast. You should just diversify so your other costs are not neglected. In this case, using your hand to extend your attacks with White Hand. Not a bad option. I think it's fine. I understand that there are a lot of people who don't agree with this one. They say, play stuff like Refilling Raizer, play stuff like, Burst Raizer. That's fine. I think those are wonderful ideas. I tried it myself. I think it's pretty neat. But for this profile I'm putting on now, I would still say White Hand. But if you don't want to, it's fine. Don't bother. Then of course our grade 1s, we play 4 copies of Arashid. Yes, this is my VBT10 Arashids. Then 4 Ratopia Raizer, 2 copies of Trance Raizer, and then of course 4 copies of the Screaming and Dancing Announcer Shout. So let's break it down. Arashid is your grade 3 searcher. He gains 5000 power if a unit has stood this turn by card effect. Okay, that's fine. You need Mega Flare at all times, so you definitely do want to play a grade 3 searcher. Trance Raizer is again from the Perfect Raizer era, and you'll be saying, oh, what does this guy do? When he boosts Soul Blast 2 and Counter Charge 1, and then you choose one of your units and it gets 3000 power. Okay, this unit gains 3000 power. Okay, so it's an 11k boost and a Counter Charge. Alright, that's fine. It's Soul Blast 2, that sounds pretty heavy, but as you can now start to see, Soul's not really much of an issue. So we're just trading off our excess Soul for Counter Charge because this deck needs a lot of Counter Blast thanks to your built-in Mega Flare. So yeah, we only need to play 2 because as you will see our other cards in the grade 1 lineup, it's really all you need at that point in time. Now let's finally break down the main juicy parts of this deck. I'll start with Ratopia Raizer since he's the one that makes more common sense. When placed on a Vanguard circle, you may superior call a Battle Raizer from your soul to the unit behind it. So yeah, that's another way you can drag out Battle Raizer besides your high power Raizer custom. Then you'll be saying, come on man, we only have 1 copy of Battle Raizer in circulation. Why would you have so many skills to train out this one guy? This is because of Ratopia Raizer's second skill. Once per turn, Counter Blast 1, choose one of your rear guards and move into the soul. Search your deck for a Raizer unit that is 1 grade higher than the unit you moved in and superior call it. Yeah, that's literally it. It's a built-in Time Leaper for Raizers. Yeah, that's cool. That's really good, You're missing a grade 1, just send Battle Raizer back in, boom, you got a grade 1. You had trouble looking for the Trance Raizer? You got it now. Oh, you just called yourself a high-powered Raizer custom? That's not a bad option to superior call, but what you gonna do with it? Or I'll tell you what you're gonna do with it. Let's just swap into a maximum Raizer since we don't actually need that on hit pressure. So the way this deck works is by having really a large pool of Raizers, you can start time leaping the units you no longer deem necessary into units that you will be deeming necessary. Cards that you don't have. It's not amazing as cards themselves, but having options to pool into them is just what you're here for. And I think Ratopia Raizer is easily the spine of any Raizer deck build right now. Because Raizers really as a whole are not very impressive. You have so much better options. You have Beast Deities, you have Godhand, you have Victor, you have Blau. So why bother with Raizers? Ratopia Raizer. The fact that he can just toolbox your entire archetype at his will is just that good. So yeah, I'm definitely going to recommend you to pick up Ratopia Raizer even if you're playing Perfect Raizer. Pick it up. And last but not least, 4 copies of Screaming and Dancing Announcer Shout. Shout's skill is very simple. You rest this unit. You and your opponent look at the top card of their decks. The one with the higher grade is added to hand. The one with the lower grade is put to soul. And then if they're the same grade, both are added to hand. So you may say, oh, this is just a big gamble. Why bother? It's such a bad card. You're removing cards from your deck. You're helping your opponent plus. No, it's not. Worst case scenario, you gave your opponent +1, but you got a free soul charge, which is great because we actually do use this soul charge. If not, you may be saying, oh, then I just got a free +1 and my opponent just got a free soul charge. That's fine because you need as many pieces as possible to pawn to the board to do your aggression. And you may then say, oh, we don't have a back row to boost since our back row is allocated to shout. Well, in the first place, you didn't need a booster. You have so much better options out there. They can just swing on their own. As long as you pour a large number of them to just keep going, a back row isn't 100% guaranteed. And once you're done with that shout, you can just use Ratopia Raizer to transform him into, a dual flare. So really, there is an argument as to why shout is being played. I know that there will still be a lot of people who do not agree with shout in this deck, and honestly, that's fine. I think it's really player preference, and I just really enjoy the way shout feels in my Raizers. A grade 0 lineup, we obviously play 4 Twin Blader as our draw PG. We play a total of 8 crits. We play a Bell Raizer for our grade 0s, and then we obviously have 4 Hill Guardians as I mentioned just now. Really straightforward lineup because the crit pressure is really needed. The draw PG is just the normal standard of defense. I wouldn't recommend 12 crits because to me, I still would like some draw here and there, and the PG is definitely helpful. But if you don't want to, I think it's fine. 12 crits is not horrible. Just make sure you have Hill Guardians at the very least. Alright, and that actually wraps up real quickly my Ultimate Raizer Mega Flare Dual Flare deck profile. This was definitely one of the decks I was most hyped for coming into VCall because I am actually a Raizer player during Legion. It was actually the only Legion deck I could hard afford. So I was just really happy to have them back. Although I was debating after I saw the skills, oh, should I buy it? Should I not? Should I buy it? Should I not? And I can say with large amount of certainty right now that it wasn't a regret. Yes, you don't expect a new Luat destroying deck or a deck that actually gatekeeps Gavro from the meta. Don't expect anything like that. But at the same time, don't expect Reiji because the Raizers, the Legion era Raizers here, are actually not bad for what they do. It's a really good way to start Nova Grappler if you are not looking to spend into too much over expensive generics. As you can see, most of my card choices are all Raizers, or if not reprinted stuff, they are really not hard to find. So this is really one of the decks that lean more on the cheaper side of Nova Grappler, and you don't need some busted ass or VR from God knows when, because Nova Grappler doesn't really have much busted ass or VR since Novas don't really have a history of great support. But for what it's worth, I think the Raizers are pretty neat. What do you guys think about Raizers? Do you think they're worth your time? Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. We are going to do still a few more VCall videos here and there because, there's 24 clans. You would want to cover more, and I do want to cover more. So I'll still be covering maybe about 1 to 2 more V decks before we move on to DBTO4. Yes, we don't really cover much for DBTO3. I may eventually, I don't know, but seeing that DBTO4 is also really near around the corner, I may just choose to do that instead. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.